You've seen them before. The people who seem to carry something unshakable inside them. They don't flinch when others question their choices. They don't apologize for taking up space. When everyone else drowns in doubt, they move with quiet certainty. They're not better than you. They're not smarter than you. They're not luckier than you. But they have something you're missing. They know exactly why they're here. What if this was you? What would it feel like to wake up every morning with that kind of clarity? To make decisions from a place so deep that other people's opinions feel like background noise. To finally stop asking, "What should I do?" and start asking, "What am I called to do?" Picture yourself walking into a room and not scanning faces to see if you belong. Picture yourself speaking your truth without rehearsing it first. Picture yourself choosing your path without needing anyone's permission. Picture yourself so aligned with your purpose that criticism bounces off you like rain on glass. Imagine the peace that comes from knowing you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Imagine doing exactly what you're supposed to do. Imagine the energy that floods your body when you're living from your deepest truth instead of your deepest fears. But here's what's actually happening. You're surrounded by people who are slowly killing your purpose. They're not doing it on purpose. They might even love you. But every conversation, every suggestion, every well-meaning comment pulls you further away from who you're meant to become. You feel it in your chest when you try to explain your dreams and watch their faces change. You feel it in the way you start editing your words before you speak them. You feel it in the exhaustion that comes from living someone else's version of your life. You've tried everything. You've read the books, listened to the podcasts, made the vision boards. You've meditated, journaled, gone to therapy. But you're still hurting. You're still stuck. You're still suffocating under the weight of everyone else's expectations. The shame hits you in waves. The panic wakes you up at 3 a.m. The exhaustion follows you through every day because you're constantly performing. You're constantly overfunctioning. You're constantly trying to be the person everyone else needs you to be. But here's what you haven't been told. Here's what no one wants to admit. The pain you feel isn't because something's wrong with you. It's because you've abandoned the one thing that makes you who you are, and the people closest to you are the ones holding the shovel. Viktor Frankl survived the Nazi concentration camps. He lost everything: his family, his home, his life's work. But in the darkest places humans have ever created, he discovered something that couldn't be taken away. He wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how." Purpose isn't a luxury. It's not something you find when life gets easier. It's the thing that makes life bearable when everything else falls apart. It's what kept Frankl alive when death would have been easier. It's what keeps you alive when giving up feels like relief. But here's what Frankl also knew that no one talks about. Your purpose has enemies. And they're not strangers. They're not the obvious villains. They're the 5 types of people who, without even realizing it, are slowly suffocating the meaning you were born to create. They're sitting at your dinner table, they're in your phone contacts, they're at your office, in your family, in your friend group. They love you, they want what's best for you, but they're killing the very thing that makes you alive. You've become a puppet dancing to their tune. You're living someone else's life, making their choices, avoiding their fears. The person you were supposed to become is somewhere underneath all their voices, gasping for air. The heaviness in your chest when you keep the peace instead of speaking truth. That's your purpose dying. The tightness behind your eyes when you agree too quickly. That's your soul trying to break free. The way you feel drained after spending time with certain people. That's your life force being redirected toward their comfort instead of your calling. Your pain isn't random. It's a message. It's your deeper self screaming that you're living too small. You're caring too much about the wrong things. You're letting the wrong people define what matters. This isn't about being selfish. This isn't about not caring what others think. This is about recognizing that when you abandon your purpose, you abandon the very thing that makes you capable of truly serving others. Frankl understood that meaning isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you protect. It's something you fight for. It's something you defend against the well-meaning people who would rather you stay small than risk becoming who you're meant to be. The false self you've been wearing like armor isn't protecting you, it's imprisoning you, and the people who love your false self the most are the ones who will fight hardest to keep you from removing it. They don't mean to hurt you. They don't wake up plotting your downfall, but they're terrified of what your becoming might mean for their staying the same. They're terrified of what your courage might reveal about their comfort. The comfort keeper. This is the person who loves you exactly as you are. They mean well. They see you struggling with growth, and they want to protect you from discomfort. You don't need to change, they say. You're perfect the way you are. The comfort keeper mistakes your potential for your prison. They think love means never challenging you, but real love doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you growing. You recognize them by how they respond when you talk about your dreams. They get that worried look in their eyes. They start talking about all the reasons you should appreciate what you already have. They make you feel guilty for wanting more. But you have such a good life, and they'll say, why would you want to mess that up? They don't understand that a good life isn't the same as your life. They don't understand that comfort without purpose is just a beautiful prison. The comfort keeper has convinced themselves that protecting you from failure is the same as protecting you from growth. They can't see that you're already failing by not trying. They can't see that you're already dying by not living. When you're around them, you start to feel crazy for wanting something different. You start to question whether your dreams are just fantasies. You start to wonder if maybe you should just be grateful for what you have. But here's what they don't understand. Gratitude and growth aren't opposites. You can appreciate where you are and still move toward where you're meant to be. You can be thankful for your blessings and still hungry for your purpose. The comfort keeper speaks in the language of contentment. But contentment without purpose is just spiritual bypassing. It's avoiding the hard work of becoming who you're meant to be. They'll say things like, money isn't everything, when you talk about changing careers. They'll say, you should be happy with what you have, when you mention your dreams. They'll say, not everyone can do what they love, when you talk about your calling. But they're wrong. Not everyone will do what they love, but everyone can. The difference is whether you're willing to disappoint the people who prefer you comfortable. Take out your phone right now. Look at your contacts. Who makes you feel guilty for wanting more? Who makes you apologize for your ambition? Who makes you feel selfish for having dreams bigger than their comfort zone? That's your comfort keeper, and they're killing your purpose one be grateful at a time. The voice of reason. This person has facts, statistics, and logical arguments for why your purpose won't work. They're not trying to hurt you. They're trying to save you from disappointment. Be realistic, they say. Most people who try that fail. The voice of reason thinks they're being helpful by pointing out obstacles. They think they're being wise by preparing you for disappointment, but they're choosing safety over truth. They'll bombard you with questions. How will you make money? What if it doesn't work out? Have you thought about what you'll do if you fail? They ask these questions like they're concerned about your future, but they're really concerned about their own discomfort with uncertainty. The voice of reason has confused risk with recklessness. They've confused prudence with paralysis. They've confused planning with living. They don't understand that your purpose isn't about probability. It's about necessity. It's about the thing you'll regret forever if you don't try. It's about the thing that will haunt you on your deathbed if you let fear decide. When you're around them, you start making spreadsheets instead of taking action. You start researching instead of starting. You start planning instead of doing. You become so focused on minimizing risk that you forget to maximize life. They'll send you articles about market saturation. They'll share stories about people who lost everything chasing their dreams. They'll remind you about the economy, the competition, the uncertainty. But here's what they don't tell you. The biggest risk isn't failure. It's never trying at all. The biggest danger isn't losing what you have. It's never becoming who you're meant to be. The voice of reason has forgotten that some things are worth doing regardless of the outcome. They've forgotten that some risks are riskier not to take. They've forgotten that the biggest danger isn't failure. It's a life unlived. Right now, think about the last time you got excited about a possibility. Think about the first person you told. How did they respond? Did they ask about the obstacles before celebrating the opportunity? Did they focus on what could go wrong before acknowledging what could go right? That's your voice of reason, and they're killing your purpose one but what if at a time. The projector. This person has their own unfulfilled dreams. their own abandoned purposes. When they see you moving toward yours, it reminds them of everything they didn't do, so they project their fear onto your future. "I tried something like that once," they'll say. "It didn't work out." They're not warning you. They're warning themselves. They're not protecting you from their past. They're protecting themselves from your future. The projector's story becomes your script. Their limitations become your ceiling. Their past becomes your prophecy. They can't see that your path is different from theirs because they can't see past their own pain. They'll tell you about every person they know who tried and failed. They'll share articles about industries that are dying. They'll remind you of economic uncertainty and market saturation. They're not being realistic. They're being traumatized. The projector has confused their experience with universal truth. They've confused their limitations with natural law. They've confused their past with your future. When you're around them, you start carrying their disappointment like it's your inheritance. You start believing that their failure predicts your outcome. You start thinking that their past is more powerful than your purpose. But here's what they don't understand. Their story isn't your story. Their capacity isn't your capacity. Their failure isn't your forecast. Their past isn't your future. Their limitations aren't your reality. The projector speaks from their wounds, not their wisdom. They speak from their fear, not their faith. They speak from their past, not your potential. They'll say things like, "I know someone who tried that," and then tell you about their failure. They'll say, "I wanted to do that too," and then explain why they didn't. They'll say, "It's harder than you think," and then describe their struggle, but they're not sharing information. Every story they tell plants seeds of doubt. Every example they give builds walls around your possibilities. Take a moment right now. Think about the people in your life who always have a story about why something won't work. Think about the people who respond to your dreams with their disappointments. Think about the people who can't celebrate your possibilities because they're still mourning their own. That's your projector, and they're killing your purpose one "I tried that once" at a time. The identifier. This person loves you, but they love the version of you that makes sense to them. They've built their identity around who you've been, not who you're becoming. When you start to change, they feel like they're losing you. "This isn't like you," they'll say. "You've always been..." And then they'll list all the ways you used to be small. The identifier can't see that growth isn't betrayal. Becoming isn't abandonment. Evolution isn't rejection. But they'll make you feel guilty for changing because your transformation threatens their stability. They've created a story about who you are. They need you to stay in that story for their world to make sense. They've cast you in a role. They're not ready for you to audition for something bigger. The identifier speaks to who you were, not who you're becoming. They celebrate your past achievements while sabotaging your future possibilities. They keep photo albums of your old self while refusing to see your new one. When you're around them, you start shrinking back into old patterns. You start playing roles you've outgrown. You start apologizing for becoming instead of celebrating your growth. They'll say things like, "You used to be so," and then describe a version of you that no longer exists. They'll say, "Remember when you," and then reminisce about a time when you were smaller. They'll say, "You're changing," like it's a diagnosis instead of a destination. But here's what they don't understand. You are not who you were. You are not who you used to be. You are not the person they need you to be. You are becoming who you're meant to be. The identifier needs you to stay the same so they can stay the same. They need you to remain predictable so they can remain comfortable. They need you to stay small so they don't have to grow. Stop for a moment. Think about the people who get upset when you change. Think about the people who remind you of who you used to be when you're trying to become who you're meant to be. Think about the people who love your potential but resist your evolution. That's your identifier. And they're killing your purpose, one you've always been at a time. The substitute. This person offers you a smaller version of your purpose, something safer, more acceptable, more in line with what they think you should want. They're not trying to kill your dreams, they're trying to manage them. "Why don't you just..." they'll say, and then suggest something that sounds similar but feels completely different in your chest. They'll offer you the diet version of your calling, the decaffeinated version of your purpose, the training wheels version of your destiny. The substitute doesn't understand that purpose isn't negotiable, It's not something you can trade down from. It's not something you can substitute with something similar. It's the thing that makes you who you are. They'll suggest you write as a hobby instead of becoming a writer. They'll suggest you help people in your spare time instead of making it your career. They'll suggest you pursue your passion on the weekends instead of making it your life. The substitute has confused activity with identity. They've confused doing with being. They've confused interest with calling. When you're around them, you start accepting less than what you know you're meant for. You start compromising your vision to fit their comfort zone. You start trading your purpose for their peace of mind. Your purpose isn't a hobby. It's not a side project. It's not something you do when you have time. It's who you are. It's why you're here. It's what makes everything else make sense. The substitute speaks the language of compromise, but some things can't be compromised. Some things can't be negotiated. Some things can't be substituted. Think about the people who always offer you a smaller version of your dream. Think about the people who suggest you just do something less instead of more. Think about the people who want you to settle for similar instead of fighting for same. That's your substitute, and they're killing your purpose one compromise at a time. If this message found you at the right time, subscribe. Here's what none of these 5 people understand. Your purpose isn't about them. It's not about their comfort, their understanding, their approval, or their support. It's about the thing that makes you feel most alive, most connected, most like yourself. But here's what you need to understand. The problem isn't them. The problem is that you're still asking for their permission. You're still waiting for their support. You're still hoping they'll change. They're not going to change. They're going to keep being exactly who they are. They're going to keep saying exactly what they've always said. They're going to keep offering exactly the same limitations they've always offered. Right now, I want you to do something. Get out a piece of paper. Write down the names of these 5 people in your life. The comfort keeper, the voice of reason, the projector, the identifier, the substitute. Under each name, write down the last thing they said that made you doubt yourself. Write down the last thing they said that made you feel guilty for wanting more. Write down the last thing they said that made you smaller. Now look at that list. Really look at it. This is your purpose's obituary. This is how your dreams die. Not in one dramatic moment, but in 1,000 small compromises. Here's your next action. The next time one of these people speaks to your limitation instead of your possibility, you're going to do something different. You're going to say, "Thank you for your concern," and then you're going to do what you know you need to do anyway. You're going to stop explaining. You're going to stop justifying. You're going to stop asking permission to become who you're meant to be. Frankl knew something that most people never learn. He knew that meaning isn't something you find when conditions are perfect. It's something you create when conditions are impossible. It's something you protect when everyone else wants you to abandon it. In the concentration camps, Frankl watched people give up, not because the conditions were too harsh, but because they couldn't find a reason to keep going. They had lost their why. Your why is under attack, not by obvious enemies, but by the people who love you most. They're not trying to hurt you, they're trying to help you, but they're helping you stay small instead of helping you become great. The question isn't whether they'll understand. The question is whether you'll abandon your purpose for their comfort. The question is whether you'll choose their peace over your purpose. You already know what you're supposed to do. You've always known. The confusion isn't real. The uncertainty isn't honest. You know. You've always known. The person you were supposed to become is still there, waiting, buried under other people's expectations, buried under other people's fears, buried under other people's small dreams for your big life. But buried isn't dead. Silenced isn't gone. Delayed isn't denied. This is your moment. This is your choice. This is your time to decide whether you'll live their version of your life or your version of your life. What are you going to choose? What truth hit you the hardest? Write it below. Don't stop here. The next video continues what we started.